Ladies and gentlemen, I'll read you a Bloomberg article right now. Taiwan warns China can paralyze island's defenses in conflict. This is just several hours back, and it talks about how both countries are now reaching a point where they expect something to happen militarily. This is like the biggest story completely ignored by morally superior, highly educated, polished, liberal Democratic politicians. Who are the adults in the room? They are completely and utterly clueless as to what's going on and the possibility of Taiwan being invaded or blockaded. Part of U.S. national security has been an unstated agreement. It's a bit ambiguous, but an unstated agreement that we would defend Taiwan, or at least, show the world that we care about the country remaining independent from China. We don't have a formal defense treaty with this country. We're probably not going to do anything if, God forbid, China invades Taiwan. The issue is that because Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal, because his evacuation was so haphazard, and the entire world saw that after 20 years, because of Biden, we did not leave in the manner we should have left. The big issue is not so much leaving. The big issue is how we left. All Biden had to do was abide by Trump's negotiated deal. That negotiated deal stated we needed to be gone, completely evacuated by May 1st, not starting the evacuation process after May 1st. That is a point that is completely ignored by anyone defending Biden. The issue was not leaving or even the country collapsing, because that was likely going to happen no matter who left. The issue and the big problem and the reason Mashed Potato Brains is like the worst leader of all time, and the entire world is looking at him saying the United States can't be serious. The lights are on, but nobody's home. I mean, this man is one fry short of a Happy Meal. So the issue is we left in such a rushed and irresponsible and incompetent manner. We are now, even though media has claimed, oh, well, it's ended, the war has ended, that's it, we're still bogged down because we need to get every American out. There's an interpreter, an Afghan interpreter, that saved Biden's life. He left. Of course, Biden left him there. Okay? That's what you get from this man who slurs his speech and is completely absent-minded and starts lowering his voice in this hushed kind of Clint Eastwood type of, act. Nobody is deceived by Biden's lack of awareness or foggy, doddering, just bizarre behavior. The main issue, though, is that the whole world sees that we're at our lowest point since Jimmy Carter. So does China. And if you read all of these articles and hit subscribe to this channel right this second, tell your friends about this channel. If you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. If you want to give a super thanks and buy me a cup of coffee, you can do that below. It's right next to the like and the share buttons. And if you want to support my work long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. I have live streams every evening at around 6, 7 p.m. and then another one at around 11 p.m. Pacific. Taiwan warned China that China could paralyze its defenses in a conflict. A stark new assessment expected to fuel calls in Washington for more support for the democratically ruled island. China is able to neutralize Taiwan's air and sea defenses and counterattack systems with a soft and hard electronic attacks. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense said in an annual report to lawmakers seen by Bloomberg News. The document offered a more alarming assessment than last year's report, which said China still lacked the capability to launch such an assault. So there are a number of ways, from espionage within the island to, annexing or invading in the same way that Russia did with Crimea, or just simply blockading it. Or there are islands, small islands outside of Taiwan that China could then take over. The issue that is in the title is the following: we risk a nuclear confrontation, because we're not going to, even in terms of conventional military engagements, they have these cruise missiles that can hit aircraft carriers and other naval vessels. So we have the strongest navy in the world, but they have a whole bunch of ways to address that with these cruise missiles and other weaponry, and they have a good navy themselves. They've been building their navy and military up the past 10 years. In fact, Xi of China, there was a corruption scandal and bribery issues throughout, like, the military 10 years ago, and then he cleaned all that up, or he's in the process of, or cleaned it up. So that, I remember reading about that years back. So he's been building up, and if they get Taiwan, they're closer to the Philippines, they're closer to Japan, and then they're closer to South Korea in terms of being able, God forbid, to either launch an attack of theoretically, but there are disputed islands all throughout the South Pacific. These disputed islands, China might utilize its advantage, having Taiwan, as part of the mainland officially, might utilize their advantage to intimidate the Philippines, Japan, or South Korea. We can't have that. That is definitely part of U.S. national security. But again, Biden is completely clueless. Democrats, as usual, are completely clueless. When it happens, they'll probably bring us to the brink of nuclear annihilation, and then they'll say it's Trump's fault. somehow, some way, they're going to blame Trump. Because, see, this is the thing. Right now, our economy is in the tank. Inflation is soaring. We just survived a year of Democrats tanking the entire all of society and our economy to save people. That we have an eviction crisis that is set to cause major economic issues. Okay, especially the families that are being forced now to perhaps face homelessness because Democrats wanted to save them by tanking the entire society. Then you have AOC and Bernie Sanders talking about the billionaire class and stimulus packages when you've literally prevented people from working to save them. So it's this cycle of lunacy that is a gigantic racket on the left. But anyway, you have a situation where they're not going to back down because they know we don't have a leader. I don't mean in terms of a leader that's hawkish or militant. I mean it in terms of competence. Biden is completely inept and incompetent. And everybody on the planet knows that if you asked him what he was doing that day, he wouldn't really know. And that's okay, apparently, for our country. As long as it's not Trump and his mean tweets. Okay, we had record low unemployment. We had international deals. The Doha Agreement was, had we simply abided by the Doha Agreement, none of this would have happened. We had to be out May 1st, and they said, if you don't leave May 1st, big problems. And we saw we had 13 Americans that should be alive, close to 200 Afghans that should be alive, and we have Americans behind enemy lines. Okay? Not to mention, Biden left 130 rescue dogs behind. And a woman still caring for them. And the interpreter who saved him. And Afghans who were still trying to get out. And then he says, well, we did our best, and it was always bound to happen. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. There was a prisoner swap between the Afghan government and the Taliban. Trump and Pompeo, I'm not the biggest fan of Pompeo, but Trump, I like. Voted for Trump. It was a moral imperative to do so. If you wanted a level of competence, more peace around the world, Trump was less militant than Biden always, and he was opposed by the Lincoln Project, who, by the way, vote Democrat alongside AOC and Bernie Sanders. But it was Trump that reversed U.S. foreign policy. And it was Biden that is now trying to take credit, even though had it not been for the Doha Agreement, he would never have removed Americans. And the manner in which he removed American soldiers and Afghan civilians was completely irresponsible, directly led to a loss of life, just like when they gave Andrew Cuomo an Emmy while he was putting infected people in elderly care facilities. Anyway, getting back to the crisis at hand, they're not going to back down, which means, since they also have nuclear weapons, it could be very likely a confrontation similar to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay? But then you had JFK there, who actually opposed his military advisors. Okay, they were telling him to invade Cuba. Okay, he didn't want to do that. It worked out. He didn't listen to them. Could have led to the annihilation of the entire planet with mutually assured destruction. But again, if this is not on like social media, it's not important to Democrats. So we face a huge crisis. I can't tell you, like, this is like, if we face economic problems at home, we still face issues and a crisis in Afghanistan. And now we might face a crisis with Taiwan and China invading it. I mean, we would be far below our lowest point, which was right around where Jimmy Carter was at in terms of foreign policy and like these foreign policy debacles. And notice, where's the intel community warning the country? Because the Steele dossier was, BuzzFeed let everybody know. So are there any documents like foreshadowing impending doom anywhere? Because Biden told Ashraf Ghani, your military's fine, able to withstand everything. And then we find out that the intel community told him, that wasn't true. And then he said, Biden, the intel people, they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me what was really going on. So apparently our intelligence agencies only care about Trump being a Russian operative, which they fabricated, and of course was not true. Give me your thoughts below. If we have a conventional military confrontation, we're not going to, but if they do invade Taiwan and we send our Navy as a show of support for Taiwan, maybe not, a direct confrontation, we do risk a nuclear standoff because they're not backing down. Then you'd have mashed potato brains holding the fate of the entire world in his hands, or really the people around him, which are actually even more inept, if that's even possible. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now to this channel. Be here for the live streams.